Hello, beautiful people. How are you guys doing on today? I hope you guys are awesome. My name is Maria, and I want to welcome you guys to my YouTube channel. So, I wanted to come and talk to you guys about this message. Um, it is dear to my heart because it's something that I believe, and I believe that when God speaks something to you, that you have to hold on to it. So, I want to talk to you guys today about promise. Have God promised you something? And I feel that sometimes when God promised us something, we're like, okay, we're walking, we're going on to do what God's telling us to do. And then when it doesn't quite happen the way we planned it or way we think it should happen, then we start to want to adapt back or go back to and not hold on to what God promised us. And we want to start saying, okay, well, it's not happening the way we want it to happen. So we start getting a little impatient. And so we go out to want to make it happen on our own. So I'm here to tell you to hold on to what God promised you. I come to today to encourage you that everything God promised you, He will do just what He said. Just what He says He would do. If He promised you something, hold on to it. Don't give up. Do not give up. Don't go back to doing or trying to make it happen on your own. Hold on to what He promised you because He will do just what He said. He'll do exactly what He said He would do. Okay, so I believe there's way. The way we can continue holding on to what God promised us. And so I'm going to give you tips, three ways we can hold on to what God promised us. But before I do, I wanted to define three words. So the first word is believe. And it means to have confidence or faith that something would happen. The second word is focus. And it is a center point or the center of an attention. To stay focused on something is to be centered, to be completely, to make that thing your center focus. And the third word is trust, relying on the strength and ability of a person, relying on the strength and the ability of a person. Okay, so three ways you can hold on to what God promised you. The first is believe. What God promised us, we have to believe what He's saying. Because He's God. He's the Alpha and Omega. He's the beginning and the end. He's the great I am. And so when He speaks to us, as we listen, we hear, but we have to believe. We have to believe that what He's saying, He will do. Do you believe that He's almighty? Do you believe that He's majestic? Do you believe that He's sovereignty? That He would do everything that He promised you? Do you believe it? We have to believe it. Because if we don't believe it, then it's just like what He's saying is nothing. It's just like what He's saying, like, oh yeah, okay. We have to believe that what He's saying, that He will do it. It's our faith in action when we believe. It's our faith in action when we believe. Okay. So the second thing, second of us, the second way of us holding on to God's promise is trusting Him. I think sometimes when God promised us something and it hasn't happened within that year, and then the next year comes and you're just like, when is it going? You're like, you know what? You feel that He's not going to do it. You feel it's like, I'm waiting. But I'm here to tell you, your waiting is not in vain. You're waiting. You're waiting for what God has promised you. That what He promised you, He said He would do. But it's not in vain. He will fulfill everything He has promised you in His timing. That's the thing we forget. It's not in our timing. Because as humans, we are impatient creatures. We can be impatient. We hurry the microwave. We put our food in, we put our item in, and we press play. We're like, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. We hurry the microwave. We can't rush God. It happens in his timing. Everything he promised you, he will do. God promised Abram a son. In Genesis chapter 15, verse 1 through 6, and this is what it reads. It says, God promised a son to Abram. It says God's covenant with Abram. His covenant with Abram. It says, after these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision, saying, do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your exceedingly great reward. But Abram said, Lord God, what will you give me, seeing I go childless? And the hair of my house, the hair of my house, they say my servant will get my heir, will get everything that I have. Then Abram said, look, you have given me no offspring. Indeed, one born of my house is my heir. You have given me, he's saying, you have given me no children, God. I have no kids. I have no children. So who would come and get the inheritance of what you tell me to live for? I have no children to pass down my generation to. I have no descendants to pass down my generation to. There's no next generation in my household. But my servant, he will get it. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, saying, this one shall not be your heir, but one who will come from your own body shall be your heir. Then he brought him outside and said, look now towards heaven and count the stars, if you are able to number them. And he said to him, so shall your descendants be. So shall your descendants be. Verse 6. And he believed in the Lord, and it was counted to him for righteousness. Abraham believed what God spoke to him. And Abram believed what God spoke to him, and it was counted to him for righteousness. He said, look outside. Look up to heaven. Can you count the stars? Because if you can number them, can you number them? There's millions of stars in the sky that we can't count them all. But he said your descendants will be many. There will be many. Which is true. But because Abraham believed, it happened. He believed that God would do it. It's our belief that holds us back. It's our belief at times that what God promised to us, he will do exactly what he said. But he wants us to believe. He wants our faith to be in action and say, God, I will believe you. God, I'm going to believe you. I'm going to trust. Because belief and trust is our faith in action. As it says in his word, we walk by faith and not by sight. We walk by faith, not by sight. We don't walk by what we can see, but we walk by faith knowing that God will do all. Do you believe today? Do you believe that what he promised you, he will do just what he says? Do you believe it? Do you trust that he can do it? Do you trust that God has sovereignty? Do you trust that he will do exactly what he said? Because we can't run ahead of him. We can't rush him because it'll happen in his timing. But will you trust him today? Will you believe and hold on to know that your waiting is not in vain? That everything God promised you, he will do just what he said. He will do it above and beyond. He will do it. God will blow your mind. There's some times that God speaks to me and I'm just like, what? God will blow your mind to the point you're just like, okay, Lord, all you have to do is just keep nodding. Okay, Jesus. All right, Lord, I hear you, I understand you, because he's so powerful. But he comes and speaks to us in a quiet voice. He's so powerful. He don't come in a booming voice. He comes in a quiet voice to speak to us. because he loves us that much. He loves us that much. But he wants us to believe everything he promised us. I believe everything God has promised me he will do. God has promised me things. God has promised me so much that he will do in my life, and I will believe it. I believe it. I believe and I trust him. And I walk by faith. I walk by faith because I know he's right there with me. But I know that if he's done things for me in the past, then what he said he would do for me in the future, if he done it for me before, if he brought you out of something, if he brought you through something, and then he turns around and promised you something, you got to believe that what he said, because he's giving you evidence because of what he's done for you in the past. He saved my life. He cleaned me up. He brought me out of some things. So if I know he did that for me before and he's right there with me, then I know what he promised me he will fulfill in me. I know what he promised me he will do just what he said. Hold on. Hold on to what he promised you. I know sometimes Satan wants us to go back into that lustful state. Satan wants us to go back to fornicating, being adulterers. Satan wants us to go back doing that. But God said, hold on. Because what I promised you, I will fulfill. What I promised you, I'm going to do just what I said. I don't want you lusting. I don't want you being a fornicator. God said, I don't want you being an adulterer. He said, I want you to be just who I called you to be. My child, my son, doing exactly what I called you to be. My daughter. You are my daughter. But I want you to believe in me. I want you to trust me. That I hold your life in my hands. And in my timing, everything that I promised you, I will bring to pass in my timing in your life. Will you hold on today? Will you hold on? The last tip way we can hold on to what God promised us is to stay focused. Stay focused. Keep our eyes fixed on King Jesus. Stay focused on what God is telling you to do now. What God is telling you to do. Not what other people want you to do. Not what mama and daddy, sister and cousin and friend want you to do. But what God has told you to do. There's an assignment he has given you. There's some instructions he has given you. Stay focused on that. Doing what he's telling you to do. Because he got your promise. He know what he promised you. But stay focused on what he's telling you to do now. What he's telling you to do now. What he's telling you to do now. Keep your eyes fixed on him. Keep your eyes fixed on him and trust and believe and know that he will bring the promise, everything that he promised you, to pass in his timing. Paul was in the midst of a storm. And Paul was in the midst of a storm. In the midst of the storm, Paul had faith. As it says in Acts 27 chapter, the 25th verse. It says, so keep up your courage, men. Paul is encouraging his men, the men that are around him and himself. So keep up your courage, men. For I have faith in God that it will happen just as he told me. He's saying, I have faith in God. That's his belief, and that's him trusting in God. That's our faith. When we believe and trust God, it's our faith. Because having faith is believing what God says and trusting that he would do just what he said. Paul had faith in God. Even in the midst of a storm, Paul had faith that God would do exactly what he said he would do. Exactly what he said he would do. Paul had faith. And so in the midst of the storm, he didn't fall apart. He didn't lose his faith. He encouraged his men and he held on because he believed and trust that God would do just what he said he would do. Same thing with Abraham. He didn't say, Lord, you're lying. You ain't going to send me no kid. Lord, you're telling me a story. You're not going to send a kid to me. You're not going to send me a child. I'm not going to have a child. He believed what God said to him. And it was counted to him for righteousness. It was counted to him for righteousness. It was counted to him for righteousness. So 3 ways you can stay focused on what God, 3 ways you can hold on to what God promised you is 1, believe. 2, trust God. And 3, stay focused on what he's telling you to do now. Stay focused on the King. Stay focused on the King. I love you guys, and I will talk to you guys later. If you like this message, I ask you to hit the subscribe button and subscribe if you want to hear more messages like this. Hit the like button if you like this message, and always share. Always remember, you're not following me, you're following Christ. Oh, if you like to go to church with me this Sunday, I go to Oakdale Covenant Church, 9440 South Bend Sands. Leave a message below, and I will reply and letting you know so we can change information so we can I will leave you my number so you can call me, and we'll change information so we can meet up. I love you guys. I hope you guys have a blessed day. Be inspired and go out and inspire someone to continue to live for Christ. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you later.